The classroom smelled like blood before the apocalypse even began. Not because anyone had died yet, because everyone had already decided who they would sacrifice first. Ethan Vale stood beside the shattered window while 30 girls stared at him as if he were a disease. Outside, the sky had turned black. Not dark. Black, a vast crimson crack stretched across the heavens, like someone had sliced the world open with a blade. Cars crashed below. People screamed in the streets. Phones lost signal. Then every screen inside the classroom flashed with the same message. A civilization has entered. The serval. Ere servive. A second message followed. Talent token incomplete gasps filled the classroom. Golden lights appeared around several students. Emily Hart, the class president, stared at her trembling hands. A translucent interface floated before her, healing. Her voice shook. I awakened advanced healing. The terror in the room instantly changed. Eyes brightened. People crowded around her. You can heal injuries? That's amazing. We're saved. Another girl suddenly screamed. Flames erupted from her fingers. Fire manipulation. Another awakened enhanced strength. Another received windblade. Another gained danger sense. One talent after another appeared. Some were strong, some were mediocre. But every girl received something useful. Then everyone looked at Ethan. A gray interface floated before him. Silence. Someone laughed. It was Chloe Reed. She had spent the entire semester mocking Ethan for being the scholarship student in an elite private academy. Now she covered her mouth dramatically. A thief? More laughter followed. Seriously? That sounds useless. Can you steal wallets during the apocalypse? Ethan said nothing. He was staring at the word. Thief. A talent universally regarded as worthless. A support ability incapable of directly fighting monsters. At least, that was what everyone believed. And Ethan knew exactly what happened next, because he had lived through this day before. He remembered the crimson sky, the monsters, the hunger, the screaming. He remembered protecting these girls. He remembered finding food for them, killing infected creatures for them, standing guard while they slept, carrying the wounded when they could no longer walk. Emily had smiled at him then. She had called him their protector, their leader, their hero. What a beautiful lie. 3 months later, when food became scarce, Emily discovered Ethan had secretly stored emergency supplies. That night she gathered everyone. They accused him of hoarding resources. Chloe slapped him. Another girl broke his fingers. Someone stabbed his thigh. Then Emily searched his backpack. She took everything: medicine, food, monster cores, weapons, even the photograph of Ethan's dead sister. He still remembered Emily holding it between 2 fingers. You should have trusted the group. Then she dropped it into the fire. Ethan had screamed. Not from the beating, not from the knife in his leg, from the photograph burning. The last image of the only person who had ever loved him disappeared in the flames. Afterward, they tied Ethan outside their shelter, monster bait. He begged them to untie him. Emily had smiled. You always wanted to protect us. Her voice had been gentle. So protect us one last time the monsters came. They ate him alive. Ethan remembered every bite. Teeth tearing through his shoulder, claws ripping open his stomach, his own blood filling his mouth, his screams becoming weaker. Through the shelter window he saw them watching. Some looked afraid. Some looked guilty. Chloe was smiling. Emily simply closed the curtain. Then Ethan died and opened his eyes inside the classroom again. On the exact morning the apocalypse began. Before the betrayal, before the hunger, before the monsters. Before they burned his sister's photograph, Ethan slowly touched the inside pocket of his jacket. The photograph was still there. His fingers trembled once, only once, then became perfectly still. Across the room, Chloe laughed again. Hey, thief boy, why are you staring into space? Ethan looked at her. In his previous life, Chloe had awakened enhanced agility. She had used that speed to escape danger repeatedly. She had also used it to kick Ethan in the face while he was tied up. Interesting. A notification suddenly appeared. Talent condition satisfied. Thief has detected. Would you like to steal a skill? Ethan's pupils contracted. That had never happened before. In his previous life, his talent had only allowed him to steal physical objects from nearby targets. Weapons. Food, small items, worthless compared to combat abilities. But now, he stared at Chloe. Target. Chloe Reed skill available. Enhanced heartbeat slowed. Yes. No one heard the whisper. A strange cold sensation entered his body. Steal successful, enhanced agility acquired. Chloe suddenly stumbled. What the hell? She tried to stand. Her movements were ordinary. Her face turned pale. My talent. She opened her interface. What happened to my talent? Panic spread through the classroom. Ethan opened his own status window. Theft, hidden, evolution activated in Plunder effect. You may permanently steal skills, talents, attributes, resistances, knowledge, and selected abilities from valid targets. Stolen abilities become permanently yours. There is no acquisition limit. For the first time since awakening in his old classroom, Ethan almost laughed. Almost. Instead, the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. A cold smile, infinite theft. In his previous life, he had died protecting people who believed he possessed nothing. This time, he could possess everything. Emily noticed his expression. Ethan? She approached him carefully. What are you smiling about? Ethan looked at her. Advanced healing. A powerful survival talent, extremely valuable. His interface reacted instantly. Valid target detected, skill available. Advanced healing, he could take it. Right now. One thought. One command. Emily would lose the talent everyone had begun worshipping her for. Ethan nearly did it. Then stopped. Too early. Taking Chloe's talent could still be dismissed as confusion during awakening. But stealing every valuable talent in the room immediately would expose him. And exposure meant danger. Ethan had learned something important during his first life. Power shown too early attracts parasites. Power hidden carefully attracts opportunities. He closed the interface. Nothing. Emily gave him a sympathetic look. Don't worry about your talent. Even if it's weak, we're classmates. We'll protect each other. The same words. Exactly the same words. Ethan remembered hearing them before. Back then, they had made him feel warm. Now they sounded like insects crawling inside his ears. He smiled politely. Of course, a violent explosion rocked the school. Glass shattered. Screams erupted from downstairs. Then something enormous slammed against the classroom door. Boom. Everyone froze. Boom, the metal bent inward. A girl began crying. What is that? Boom, the door tore from its hinges. A creature crawled inside. It had once been a teacher. Now its spine protruded from like jagged spears. Its jaw hung impossibly wide. Black blood dripped from its teeth. Someone screamed. The monster lunged. Chaos exploded. Girls ran in every direction. The fire talent user panicked and threw flames wildly. She missed. The creature smashed a desk aside. Emily tried shouting orders. Nobody listened. The girl with enhanced strength attacked. The monster caught her arm. Snap bone broke. Her scream filled the room. Ethan watched quietly. He remembered this monster, the first mutated infected. In his previous life, he had risked his life distracting it while everyone escaped. He had nearly lost an eye. This time, he stepped backward. Chloe saw him. She pointed toward the monster. Do something. Ethan almost admired the absurdity. Her talent had vanished. She was terrified. And somehow she still believed he should risk his life first. Some things never changed. The creature charged. Not toward Ethan, toward Chloe. Her face twisted. Help me! Ethan moved. For one instant, hope appeared in Chloe's eyes. Then Ethan passed her. He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall. Chloe realized what was happening. You bastard! The monster struck her aside. She slammed into a desk. Ethan waited. 1 heartbeat. 2. The creature turned. He threw the extinguisher. Not at the monster. At the ceiling sprinkler pipe, metal cracked. Water exploded downward. The fire user stared in confusion. Ethan pointed. Hit the water. She obeyed without thinking. Flames erupted. Steam exploded through the room. The monster's damaged eyes closed instinctively. Ethan moved. Enhanced agility surged through his legs. He crossed the classroom faster than anyone could follow. He grabbed a broken metal chair leg, then drove it through the creature's eye. Deep twist. Pull. Black blood sprayed across his face. The monster collapsed. Silence swallowed the classroom. Everyone stared. The supposedly useless thief stood over the corpse, calm, breathing normally. Emily looked shocked. How did you move that fast? Ethan wiped from his cheek adrenaline. A ridiculous explanation. But frightened people accepted convenient answers. Then another notification defeated. Plunderable ability detected skill. Pain resistance skill. Infection resistance attribute. Enhanced endurance. Ethan's eyes darkened. Monsters too? He could steal from monsters. Not only humans. Cold energy flooded his body. His muscles hardened, his senses sharpened. The ache in his hand disappeared. Pain? Resistance acquired. Resistance acquired. Ethan stared at the corpse. In his previous life, people killed monsters for experience and cores. He could kill them for something far more valuable. Their abilities, their adaptations, their strengths. If a creature could survive poison, he could steal that resistance. If a monster could regenerate, he could take regeneration. If something could manipulate lightning, he could take that too. And there was no limit, no ceiling, no maximum number of abilities. The realization was terrifying, not to Ethan. To everyone else, they simply did not know it yet. A scream echoed from the hallway. Then another. Then dozens. The apocalypse was spreading through the school. Emily quickly regained control. We need to stay together. Everyone looked toward her. She spoke confidently. We have useful talents. Ethan can fight. I can heal. If we cooperate, we can survive. Ethan, interesting. Minutes earlier, he was the useless thief. Now he was useful enough to stand in front. Ethan glanced around the classroom. Fire manipulation. Wind blade, danger sense, enhanced memory. Minor telekinesis, night vision, poison resistance. Archery proficiency. Dozens of abilities. 30 girls. 30 walking treasure chests, and outside, thousands of monsters carrying powers that had not existed yesterday. In his previous life, this classroom had been his prison. These people had become chains around his neck. He had carried them through hell until they finally threw him into the mouths of monsters. This time, everything was different. He would still lead them. He would still protect them. He would still smile when they thanked him. Because they were useful. Every danger they encountered would reveal new abilities. Every enemy would become another source of power. Every monster would become another meal. And when these girls eventually showed their true faces, when greed returned, when betrayal returned, when Emily decided that Ethan Vale was expendable again, he would be ready. No rage, no screaming, no dramatic revenge speech. He had already wasted enough emotion on them in his previous life. This time he would simply take their skills, their advantages, their opportunities, their hope, everything. Ethan touched the photograph hidden inside his jacket. Then he looked through the broken classroom window. The city was burning. Black creatures crawled between buildings. A colossal shadow moved behind the distant skyline. The crimson crack in the sky widened. Human civilization was dying. For everyone else, it was the end of the world. For Ethan, it was the largest treasure vault ever created. Behind him, Emily called his name. We need a leader. The girls looked toward him. Fearful, desperate, dependent. Exactly as they had in his previous life. Ethan turned around. A gentle smile appeared on his face. I'll lead you. Relief filled the room. Some girls almost cried. Emily smiled gratefully. Chloe stared at him with resentment. None of them noticed the coldness behind his eyes. None of them knew that their protector had already died once. None of them understood that the boy standing before them was no longer carrying 30 classmates through the apocalypse. He was carrying 30 investments, 30 shields, 30 sources of information, 30 potential skill containers. And beyond those classroom walls waited an entire dying world filled with powers for him to steal. Ethan picked up the blood-stained metal rod. Stay behind me. The girls gathered around him, trusting him, following him, just like before. Ethan walked toward the ruined doorway. His smile widened by the smallest degree. Last life they had prepared a road into hell for him. This life, he would return the favor, personally. The hallway looked like a slaughterhouse. Blood ran beneath overturned lockers. Backpacks lay scattered across the floor. A severed hand still clutched a phone displaying a frozen emergency alert. The girls behind Ethan went silent. Their confidence disappeared the moment they saw the bodies. Emily swallowed hard. We should find survivors. Ethan kept walking. Of course she would say that. In his previous life, Emily had insisted on rescuing everyone they encountered. Teachers, strangers. Most became burdens, some became thieves, a few became killers. And every time their supplies ran low, Emily had looked toward Ethan and asked him to sacrifice more. Food, medicine, sleep, blood. He had mistaken exploitation for responsibility. Not again. A faint scratching sound came from the stairwell. Ethan raised one hand. Everyone stopped. The girl with danger sense, Mia Collins, suddenly stiffened. There's something below us. Her face turned pale. Several things. Ethan glanced. It appeared. Valid target detected, skill available, danger sense, useful. Extremely useful. But not yet. Ethan needed these girls functional. At least for now. A scream suddenly echoed from a nearby classroom. Help! Several girls turned. Another scream followed. Emily immediately moved toward the sound. We have to. Ethan blocked her path. No. She stared at him. There could be people alive. There could also be monsters waiting behind that door. Emily frowned. We can't just abandon them. Ethan looked at her calmly. Then open it. Emily hesitated. The screaming became louder. Please, someone help us. Several girls looked uncomfortable. Chloe, still furious over losing her talent, crossed her arms. You're supposed to be leading us. Ethan nodded. I am. Then do something. He looked at her. You first. Chloe's mouth shut. Ethan almost smiled. People loved morality when someone else had to pay for it. He approached the classroom door, not because he cared about the people inside, because he remembered what was in there. In his previous life, 3 survivors had been trapped inside. 1 was a teacher. 2 were students. And beneath the teacher's desk was something far more valuable, a black crystal. The first mutation core Ethan had ever seen. Back then, Emily had handed it to another survivor because she believed everyone deserved an equal chance to grow stronger. That survivor later abandoned them. This time, Ethan had no intention of sharing. He pushed the door open. A creature lunged immediately. Its arms were grotesquely long. Claws scraped the floor. Its mouth opened vertically across its face. The girl screamed. Ethan moved aside. The monster charged past him, straight toward Chloe, her face drained of color. Why is it always me? Because Ethan had positioned her closest to the doorway. He did not answer. The creature raised one claw. Before it could strike, a blast of wind cut across the room. The monster's arm flew off. Sophia Lane stared at her own hands. She had awakened Windblade. I hit it! The monster shrieked. Ethan stepped forward. Metal rod. 1 strike. Jaw strike. Knee destroyed. 3rd strike. Skull cracked. The creature collapsed. Notifications flooded Ethan's vision. Plunderable ability detected. Wall climbing. Enhanced flexibility. Low light vision. Acidic saliva. Ethan felt a flicker of amusement. Take all. Power entered his body. His joints loosened. His eyes adjusted. His palms tingled. He ignored the acidic saliva ability for now. Useful did not always mean pleasant. Across the classroom, 3 survivors crawled from behind overturned desks. Emily rushed toward them. Are you hurt? The teacher was crying, thank God. Ethan walked past them. Straight toward the desk, he crouched. There it was. A black crystal the size of a fingernail. His fingers closed around it. Mutation core detected. Absorb. Yes, the crystal dissolved. Heat surged through Ethan's chest. Physical attribute growth initiated. Strength increased. Endurance increased. Agility increased. His body became heavier and lighter at the same time. More efficient. More dangerous. What did you find? Ethan turned. A piece of glass. He tossed a random shard onto the floor. She believed him. Good. The rescued teacher began speaking. We need to get to the gym. Ethan already knew where this was going. The gym? The teacher nodded rapidly. Vice Principal Carter gathered survivors there. They have food, bottled water, sports equipment, first aid supplies. Several girls immediately brightened. A safe zone. Food, adults, authority. Exactly the bait that had trapped Ethan's group in his previous life. Chloe looked at him. That's obviously where we should go. Ethan nodded. Obviously, the answer surprised her. He had no reason to argue. The gym contained something he wanted. Someone, actually, Coach Marcus Hale, a former military contractor who had awakened Iron Skin. In Ethan's previous life, Marcus had controlled the gym like a tyrant. He confiscated weapons, collected food, forced weaker survivors to obey him. Emily had trusted him. Ethan had warned her. She had accused Ethan of jealousy. 2 weeks later, Marcus tried to trade several girls to another survivor camp in exchange for ammunition. By then, it had almost been too late. This time, Ethan hoped Marcus was still alive. Iron Skin would look good in his collection. They moved through the corridors. Every encounter became a lesson. Ethan rarely attacked first. He positioned people, observed, allowed the girls to use their talents, then finished the monsters. The others believed he was training them. He was. Just not for the reason they thought. Every ability they revealed became information. Every weakness became leverage. And every monster Ethan killed became another source of power. A creature with swollen legs gave him leap enhancement. A crawler with hardened nails gave him claw resistance. A mutated dog gave him enhanced smell. An infected janitor covered in fungus gave him spore resistance. Ethan took everything. No one noticed. By the time they reached the 2nd floor, his body had already surpassed what he had possessed after weeks in his previous life. But he moved carefully. Slowly, never too fast, never too strong. Never enough to make the others suspicious. When he could dodge, he blocked. When he could kill in 1 strike, he used 3. When he could sense enemies through smell and sound, he pretended Mia's danger sense had warned him. Hidden strength was insurance. Displayed strength was a tax. Near the cafeteria, they found a locked storage room. Emily smiled when they discovered boxes of snacks inside. We should divide everything equally. There it was. Ethan almost laughed. They had not even survived the first afternoon. And already she was distributing resources she had not found. He leaned against the wall. Fine. Chloe stared at him suspiciously. That easy? Yes. The girls began packing food. Ethan took almost nothing. Emily noticed. You should take more. You've been fighting. Ethan shook his head. Save it for everyone else. Her expression softened. You really are a good person. Good person. The phrase nearly made him nauseous. In his previous life, being a good person had bought him a front-row seat to his own execution. This time, generosity had a purpose. The snacks were worthless. Sugar, salt. Processed food, heavy packaging, temporary calories. Meanwhile, less than 20 steps away, hidden behind the kitchen freezer, was the emergency supply room. Military ration packs, water purification tablets, medical kits, portable batteries, a hand-crank radio. Nobody knew about it, except Ethan. He had discovered it months into the apocalypse after returning to the ruined school. Now he waited until everyone left. Then he pretended to inspect the hallway. He slipped into the kitchen, moved the freezer, found the maintenance panel. Behind it sat the locked steel door. His thief talent reacted. Mechanical lock, stealable property. Locking function. Ethan stared. That was new. Could he steal a function? Take it, click. The lock simply stopped being locked. Ethan opened the door. Rows of supplies waited in darkness, enough to support a small group for weeks. He closed the door behind him. Then another notification appeared. Storage capacity insufficient, thief evolution trait detected. Would you like to steal spatial capacity from nearby enclosed structures? Ethan froze. Then slowly looked around. Shelves, cabinets, lockers. The talent was adapting. Not merely stealing skills, stealing concepts, functions. Capacity. He smiled. Take it. A strange pressure formed behind his chest. Space folded, spatial capacity acquired. Internal storage unlocked. Ethan tested it. One ration pack vanished from his hand, then another, then entire boxes. Medical kits, batteries, blankets, tools, food. Everything disappeared into an invisible storage space linked only to him. The room emptied rapidly. In less than a minute, weeks of resources belonged to Ethan alone. He left several old cans behind, just enough to make the room look previously looted. Then he returned to the group. Emily handed him a packet of crackers. You barely took anything. Thanks, she smiled. He put the crackers in his pocket. 30 girls carried cheap snacks. Ethan carried enough supplies to build a future, and they thanked him for taking less. Beautiful. By late afternoon, they reached the gym. A barricade blocked the entrance. Several male students held baseball bats. A tall man stood behind them. Coach Marcus Hale, broad shoulders, close-cropped hair, cold eyes. Perfect. Marcus looked over Ethan's group. His gaze paused on Emily, then on Sophia, then on the other girls finally. He looked at Ethan. You their leader? Before Ethan could answer, Chloe spoke. Marcus smiled. Not friendly. Good. He stepped forward. Then give me your weapon. Ethan looked at the metal rod in his hand. Why we control security here? Marcus gestured toward the gym. We have rules. All weapons get surrendered at the entrance. Emily hesitated. That sounds reasonable. Of course she thought so, Marcus continued. Food gets pooled. Talents get registered. Strong combat abilities join patrol teams. Healers work in the medical section. He pointed toward Emily. You're a healer? His smile widened. Excellent. Ethan watched quietly. Same tone, same rules. He handed Marcus the rod. Chloe looked shocked. You're actually giving it up? Ethan shrugged. It's just a piece of metal. Marcus laughed. Smart kid. The gate opened. They entered. Dozens of survivors occupied the gymnasium. Food was stacked near the bleachers. Mattresses covered the basketball court. People whispered. Several armed students watched everyone. And at the center of it all sat Marcus, king of a tiny dying kingdom. He believed Ethan had just surrendered his only weapon. He had no idea Ethan carried hidden supplies. No idea Ethan had dozens of stolen abilities. No idea his body was stronger than before. No idea Ethan could steal from him. The moment Marcus turned his back, Ethan's interface appeared. Valid, target detected skill available. Close quarters, mastery attribute. Enhanced strength. Passive trait. Intimidation resistance. Ethan almost took everything. Almost. Then he remembered. Marcus still had one purpose. 3 days from now, a mutated beast would attack the gym. It would kill dozens. Marcus would survive because of iron skin, and the creature would evolve after consuming awakened humans. In Ethan's previous life, that beast had become one of the most feared monsters in the district. Its core was valuable. Its abilities even more so. If Ethan weakened Marcus now, the beast might kill him too quickly. Worse, it might never evolve properly. So Ethan closed the interface. Not yet. Let the pig grow fat. Then slaughter it. That evening, Marcus gathered everyone. We need a supply team. His eyes moved across the survivors. We're low on medicine. A lie. Ethan knew Marcus had medicine hidden in the equipment room. We need volunteers to search the pharmacy across the street. Silence. Everyone knew the streets were filled with monsters. Marcus sighed. If nobody volunteers, I'll choose. His gaze landed on Ethan. Predictable. Mia, two more girls. Emily immediately protested. They just got here. Marcus hardened his expression. Everyone contributes. He looked toward Ethan. You have a problem with that? Every eye turned toward him. In his previous life, Ethan had argued. Marcus humiliated him. Emily had asked him to compromise. Eventually, Ethan went anyway. This time, Ethan smiled. No problem. Marcus looked satisfied. Good. Emily whispered to Ethan, you don't have to do this. He looked at her. Yes, I do. Her eyes softened. She thought he was sacrificing himself for the group. How touching. The pharmacy was exactly where Ethan wanted to go. Not for medicine. Beneath the pharmacy was a veterinary laboratory. Inside it, an experimental refrigerated cabinet held biological samples. One particular organism would mutate after exposure to the crimson energy saturating the city. In his previous life, someone discovered it weeks later. A parasite capable of rapid cellular repair. The survivor who absorbed its core developed regeneration, a crude form. Slow, painful, but regeneration nonetheless. Ethan intended to arrive first. The next morning, the supply team left the gym. Marcus gave Ethan an old kitchen knife. Try not to lose it, Chloe laughed. Ethan accepted the insult calmly. Thanks. They stepped outside. The city was worse than before. Bodies lined the street. Smoke rolled between buildings. Something screamed in the distance. Mia gripped Ethan's sleeve. My danger sense is going crazy, Sophia whispered. We should go back. Ethan looked toward the pharmacy. No, a low growl came from an alley. 3 infected emerged. Then 5, then more. The girls panicked. Ethan did not. He had chosen this route intentionally. A cluster of weak infected. Perfect. Stay behind me. Sophia raised her hands. Wind gathered. Ethan watched every kill, every stolen ability, every hidden resource, every frightened follower. The snowball had begun rolling. He could already feel the difference. Yesterday he had been a thief with one secret talent. Today he possessed enhanced speed, endurance, senses, resistance, spatial storage, environmental adaptations, and a growing library of monster traits. Tomorrow he might regenerate. A week from now? He did not know. That was the most exciting part. Because infinite plunder had shown no upper limit. And the apocalypse had only just begun. Ethan tightened his grip on the cheap kitchen knife. The infected charged. His expression remained calm. Behind him the girls saw a leader preparing to protect them. Ahead of him the monsters saw prey. Neither side understood what Ethan saw. Resources skills. He smiled. Then stepped forward to harvest them. The first infected reached Ethan with its mouth wide open. He leaned aside. Not fast enough to look supernatural. Just fast enough to survive. The creature's teeth snapped beside his cheek. Ethan drove the kitchen knife under its jaw. The blade punched upward. The infected convulsed. He twisted. Pulled. Black blood sprayed across his sleeve. Another monster lunged from the left. Sophia. Ethan! Wind exploded from her hands. A blade of compressed air sliced through the creature's shoulder. It stumbled. Ethan stepped in, knife through the eye. Down dead. A third came from behind. Mia shouted before it even appeared. Ethan turned as if her warning had saved him. In reality, enhanced smell had already told him exactly where it was. He ducked. The claws passed overhead. He kicked the monster's knee. Bone shattered. Then he buried the blade in its temple. 3 bodies hit the ground. Notifications filled his vision. Plunderable ability detected. Enhanced bite force. Minor disease resistance. Bone density. Plunderable ability detected. Enhanced shoulder strength. Impact resistance. Plunderable ability detected. Predatory balance. Take all. Yes. Power flowed into him. His jaw tightened. His bones grew denser. His muscles became more stable. The changes were small individually. Together, they were becoming monstrous. More infected rushed from the alley. Sophia raised both hands. Windblade. 2 compressed arcs flashed forward. One creature lost half its neck. The other was cut across the chest but kept moving. Ethan finished both. He kept every movement controlled. Every strike looked desperate. Every dodge looked barely successful. Every kill looked like teamwork. Behind him, Mia stared in awe. You're getting better. Ethan wiped his knife. So are you? Her face brightened. Praise was cheap. Loyalty was useful. They crossed the street. The pharmacy doors were smashed open. Blood covered the entrance. Sophia looked inside. I hate this. You'll hate starving more. Ethan entered first. Rows of shelves had been overturned. Medicine scattered across the floor. Some had already been looted. Most people would have rushed toward antibiotics and painkillers. Ethan did not even glance at them. He knew where the real treasure was. The back hallway, storage room, maintenance stairwell. Basement. Mia suddenly stopped. Something is downstairs. Ethan looked at her. Strong? She shook her head slowly. Not exactly. Her brow tightened. It feels wrong. Perfect. The mutation had already begun. Ethan turned towards Sophia. What about you? I'll check the basement. No way. Sophia grabbed his arm. You're not going alone. Ethan looked at her hand. She immediately let go. I mean, we should stay together. He smiled. Then stay behind me. They descended. The basement smelled of chemicals and rot. A red emergency light flickered. Metal cages lined one wall. Most were empty. One contained a dead dog. Another had been torn open from the inside. Mia's breathing became shallow. It's close. Ethan walked toward the refrigerated laboratory. The door was locked. He touched the handle. Mechanical lock detected. Stealable property. Click. Sophia stared. How did you do that? Old lock. He entered. Inside, refrigerators hummed weakly on backup power. A shattered glass container lay on the floor. Dark tissue pulsed beneath it. It had grown. Not much. But thin red fibers spread across the tiles like roots. Sophia recoiled. What is that? Probably something experimental. Ethan stepped closer. The parasite moved. It sensed him. A needle-thin tendril shot forward. Sophia screamed. Ethan allowed it to strike his forearm. The tendril pierced his skin. Ethan! Pain flared. Then infection resistance activated. The parasite tried to spread. Failed. Ethan grabbed the tendril. The organism reacted violently. More fibers erupted. They wrapped around his arm. His interface appeared. Mutated parasite detected. Unique biological ability detected. Rapid cellular repair. Adaptive tissue. Blood nutrient absorption. Parasitic integration. Ethan's eyes darkened. There it was. Take everything. The world became red. Pain exploded through his body. Not ordinary pain. Cellular pain. His flesh felt as if it were being torn apart and rebuilt at the same time. The parasite shriveled. Its red fibers turned gray. The pulsing mass collapsed. Sophia grabbed Ethan. What happened? Blood ran from his forearm. Then stopped. Right in front of them, the wound began closing. Slowly, but visibly, Sophia froze. Mia's mouth fell open. Ethan cursed internally. Too obvious. He immediately covered the wound. The bleeding wasn't deep. That was not normal. Sophia stared at him. I saw it. Ethan looked into her eyes. So? She went silent. He kept his voice calm. The world ended yesterday. You throw blades of wind from your hands. Mia senses monsters through walls. Why are you surprised that bodies can change? Sophia hesitated. That explanation was weak. But fear made people accept almost anything. Ethan turned away. Inside, his excitement was far greater than he allowed himself to show. Regeneration, real regeneration. He picked up a broken piece of glass, pressed it lightly against his palm. Cut. Blood appeared. Then the skin slowly sealed. Not instantly, not perfectly, but enough. A normal wound that would take days now closed in moments. And adaptive tissue was already reacting. His body was learning, reinforcing itself. Ethan smiled. The apocalypse had begun less than 2 days ago. He already possessed something countless survivors would kill for. Sophia packed antibiotics, disinfectant, bandages, painkillers, vitamins, and anything remotely useful. Ethan let her fill the bags, then secretly emptied far more into his spatial storage. Shelves vanished piece by piece when the girls were not looking. By the time they left, the pharmacy looked thoroughly looted. Ethan carried most of its true value. The girls carried just enough to make Marcus happy. On the way back, they heard gunshots. Real gunshots. Someone has a gun. Ethan knew who. A group from the nearby police station. In his previous life, they had arrived at the school around this time. At first, everyone celebrated. Armed survivors, training, protection. Then the leader revealed his talent. Command voice. Anyone who heard certain instructions experienced overwhelming pressure to obey. It was not absolute mind control, but against terrified survivors, close enough. The man's name was Daniel Cross, former security officer, future warlord, and one of the most disgusting people Ethan had met in his first life. Daniel had used his ability to seize food, weapons, women, shelters. He eventually controlled 3 city blocks, then died when a monster crushed his skull. In Ethan's previous life, Daniel had forced Ethan to kneel by using command voice. That humiliation had lasted only seconds. Ethan remembered every one of them. They turned the corner. 6 armed survivors were walking toward the school. Daniel stood at the front, pistol in hand, smile relaxed. He saw Ethan's group. Well, his eyes moved across the girls. Looks like we found survivors. Sophia tightened her grip on the medicine bag. Daniel raised one hand. Relax. His voice changed, barely. A subtle vibration entered the air. Sophia's arm moved, against her will. The kitchen knife in her hand dropped. Mia stiffened. Ethan felt pressure inside his mind. Heavy, compelling. But intimidation resistance reacted. Then adaptive tissue, then something stranger. His thief talent. Hostile skill detected command voice, valid target detected steal. Ethan almost laughed. Daniel took another step. You too. He looked directly at Ethan, dropped the knife. Ethan allowed his fingers to loosen. The blade fell. Daniel smiled. That's better. He believed the skill had worked. Ethan looked submissive. Inside, he whispered one word. Take. The pressure disappeared. Daniel's face changed. His throat tightened. He tried speaking again. Neil. Nothing happened. Sophia looked confused. Daniel cleared his throat. Neil. Still nothing. Ethan opened his own status. His smile nearly escaped. Daniel's talent was gone. Permanently. Daniel stared at his hands as if the answer might be written there. What the hell? One of his men frowned. Boss. Daniel tried again. Stand still. No effect. Panic entered his eyes. Ethan bent down slowly and picked up his knife. Daniel noticed. Hey, Ethan looked at him. You dropped something. What? Your authority. Daniel's expression hardened. He raised the pistol. Sophia gasped. Ethan moved faster than human. Too fast to hide this time. He crossed the distance before Daniel could fire. One hand caught the wrist. Twist. Crack. Daniel screamed. The pistol fell. Ethan caught it, then pressed the barrel beneath Daniel's chin. The armed men froze. Nobody expected it. Daniel's face twisted with rage. You little. Ethan spoke softly. Drop your weapons. Command voice activated. The words struck like chains. Metal hit pavement. One rifle. Then another. Daniel's face turned white. He recognized his own talent, his own power, coming from Ethan's mouth. How? Ethan smiled. Luck. He struck Daniel with the pistol. The man collapsed. Sophia stared at Ethan differently now. Not like a classmate. Not like a leader. Something closer to fear. Good. A little fear was healthy. Too much trust made people reckless. Too much fear made them obedient. Ethan collected the weapons he stored most secretly. Left 2 rifles visible, one for Sophia, one for Mia. They had never used firearms. That did not matter. Weapons created confidence. Confidence made followers useful. What do we do with him? Mia. Ethan glanced down. In his previous life, Daniel had lived long enough to become a plague. Killing him now would be easy, but his men were watching. Sophia was watching. Mia was watching. Ethan still needed the mask, so he stepped back. Sophia looked relieved, human, merciful. Ethan turned. Come on. They walked away. Daniel remained unconscious in the street. Ethan had taken his talent, his weapons, his reputation, his future. Death would have been kinder. When they returned to the gym, Marcus smiled at the medicine. Knew you'd be useful. He took the bags. Not asked, took. Then he saw the rifles. His smile changed. Where did those come from? Found them. Marcus extended his hand. I'll take those too. Ethan handed him one. Sophia frowned, but said nothing. Marcus inspected it. Good. He pointed toward the equipment room. Put the rest with our supplies. Ethan obeyed, again. Everyone watching saw a compliant student, a useful subordinate, a boy who understood hierarchy. Marcus had no idea Ethan's spatial storage and contained several more guns. Medicine, food, and enough supplies to abandon the gym whenever he wanted. That night, the atmosphere changed. More survivors arrived. The gym became crowded. Hungry loud, Marcus established stricter rules. Food portions shrank. Patrols increased. Weapons disappeared into his private storage. Emily worked constantly healing minor injuries. People praised her. She became more important by the hour. Exactly like before. Ethan watched from the bleachers. Emily sat beside him eventually. You've been quiet. The future. She smiled weakly. You really think there is one? Ethan looked around. People arguing over blankets. A mother crying, students whispering. Marcus shouting orders. Outs. Emily followed his gaze. What kind? Ethan smiled. One where the useful survive. She laughed softly. You make everything sound cold. You'll understand later. She did not know how correct he was. The next day, Marcus formed teams. Combat, scavenging, medical. Security. Ethan was placed in scavenging. Again. The most dangerous role again. Emily protested. Again, Marcus ignored her again. History was trying desperately to repeat itself. Ethan found it amusing. He spent the next 2 days leaving the gym repeatedly. Every trip made him stronger. He killed mutated rats, stole night vision. Killed a bloated infected, stole toxin storage. Killed a crawling creature with armored plates. Stole natural armor. Killed a bird mutated by crimson energy. Stole long-distance vision. Killed a creature hiding beneath a bus. Stole vibration detection. Then he began experimenting. Could skills combine? He focused on natural armor and iron-like bone density. Compatible abilities detected fusion available. Fuse. Pain rolled across his skin. Reinforced dermal layer acquired. He cut his forearm. The knife barely entered. Regeneration closed the wound immediately. He tried enhanced smell and danger sense. Not his own danger sense. He still had not stolen Mia's. But vibration detection, predatory balance, enhanced smell and long-distance vision began interacting. Predatory perception acquired. The city changed. He could feel movement. Hear footsteps, smell blood, track creatures through walls. Every stolen fragment became part of something larger. Infinite Plunder was not merely stacking power. It was building a system, a body designed to survive anything. Then came the third night. Ethan sat alone near the gym entrance. The air chain woke suddenly. She sat upright. Her face turned white. Ethan, he already knew, something heavy moved outside. One step, then another. The gym floor trembled. Marcus shouted. People screamed. The barricade shook. Boom. Dust fell from the ceiling. Boom. The metal doors bent inward. What the hell is that? Ethan knew. The evolved beast. Right on schedule. In his previous life, it had torn through the gym, killed dozens, devoured awakened survivors, then evolved further. This time, Ethan had prepared. He had moved weak survivors away from the entrance. He had subtly encouraged Marcus to station his strongest fighters near the doors. He had ensured every valuable awakened combatant would be present. A feast. Not for the monster. For him, the doors exploded inward. A massive creature entered. It had once been human, now it was nearly twice a man's height. Muscle covered its body like ropes. Bone spikes protruded from its shoulders. Its mouth split open, rows of teeth rotated inside. People screamed. Marcus fired. Bullets struck the creature. Most flattened against its skin. Marcus, firing. The beast charged. One swipe, a survivor flew across the gym. Bones shattered. Another tried to run. The creature grabbed him. Bit him in half. Blood sprayed across the basketball court. Chaos erupted. Marcus activated Iron Skin. His body turned metallic. He slammed into the beast. For one moment, he stopped it. Everyone cheered. Ethan did not. He watched. Waited. The creature grabbed Marcus. Lifted him. Slammed him into the floor once. Twice. Iron Skin kept him alive. Perfect. The beast became furious. It roared. A shockwave burst from its throat. People fell. Ethan's interface flashed. New ability detected sonic roar. Interesting. The monster stepped toward Marcus. Ethan finally moved. Emily grabbed his sleeve. Don't! Ethan looked at her. Her eyes were wet. You'll die. In his previous life, she had once said the same thing. Then months later, she had watched him die. He gently removed her hand. No, he walked onto the court. The beast turned. Marcus looked up through blood. Kid, run. Ethan almost laughed. Now Marcus wanted him to run. How generous, the beast roared. Ethan stood still. People screamed for him to move. He did not. The monster charged. At the last moment, Ethan activated everything. Enhanced agility. Predatory perception. Reinforced dermal layer. Enhanced strength. Bone density. Command voice. He stepped aside. One hand caught the creature's arm. The entire gym went silent. Ethan stopped the charge, stopped it, with one hand. The creature pushed. Floor tiles cracked beneath Ethan's shoes. But he did not move. Marcus stared. Sophia stared. Everyone stared. Ethan looked into the monster's face. Down, command voice struck. The creature staggered. Only for a fraction of a second. Enough. Ethan twisted. The arm snapped. The monster screamed. He drove his fist into its ribs. Crack, another strike. Jaw shattered, a knee to the abdomen. Internal organs ruptured. The beast swung wildly. Its claws tore Ethan's shirt. Barely scratched the reinforced skin beneath. Ethan grabbed one bone spike, ripped it free. The monster shrieked. He plunged its own spike through its eye, deep into the brain. The colossal body collapsed. No cheers. Not yet, people were too shocked. Ethan stood over the corpse, blood dripping from his hand. His interface exploded with notifications. Elite mutated beast. Defeated, plunderable abilities detected, superior strength, bone, weapon generation, sonic roar, high-speed digestion, crimson energy absorption, combat instinct, all abilities compatible with existing traits. Ethan's heart beat once. Hard. Take all. The corpse shriveled, not visibly enough for anyone to notice. But Ethan felt everything. Strength flooded his muscles. Heat burned through his bones. His wounds disappeared instantly. Energy surged through every cell. His spine straightened. His senses expanded. His body became something no longer entirely human. Then another notification appeared. Ability threshold reached. Infinite Plunder has evolved. Skill refinement. Stolen abilities may now be strengthened through repeated use, fusion, and consumption of compatible traits. No known upper limit. Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. Only one. When he opened them, Marcus was staring at him. Fear, real fear. The man who had ruled the gym suddenly understood. Ethan had never been beneath him. Marcus had simply been too blind to see what stood beside him. Then Ethan's interface noticed Marcus. Valid target detected, iron skin. Close quarters mastery. Intimidation resistance. Marcus was injured, weak, no longer useful. The pig had grown fat enough. Ethan smiled. Take everything, Marcus gasped. His metallic skin vanished. His body became ordinary. His strength faded. His combat instincts disappeared. He collapsed. What? Did you? Ethan crouched beside him. Rest. Marcus looked terrified. Ethan stood. He now possessed iron skin. Close quarters mastery, another layer of enhanced strength. Another resistance. Everyone surrounded him. Emily was the first. You saved us. Ethan looked at the bodies, not everyone. Her expression darkened. But without you, we'd all be dead. People began whispering. Then someone clapped. Another followed. Then another. Soon the gym erupted. Cheers his name. Again and again. Ethan. Ethan. He stood in the center of the crowd, exactly where Marcus had stood hours earlier. The balance had shifted. People looked toward him for orders, food, survival, leadership. Ethan had not demanded power. He had allowed fear to hand it to him, much cleaner, much stronger. Emily looked at him with admiration, Sophia with loyalty, Mia with absolute trust. Chloe stood farther away, her face pale. She finally understood something. The boy she had mocked for receiving a useless talent was now the strongest person in the building, and she had no talent at all. Ethan saw her, their eyes met. She looked away first. His smile returned. This was only the beginning. Within days, he reorganized the gym. Marcus's hidden supplies were discovered. People became furious. Ethan played surprised. He distributed a portion publicly, enough to look generous. Most of the true resources remained inside his private storage. He formed combat teams, training teams, scavenging teams. He placed each talented girl where she could grow fastest. Sophia trained Windblade until she could cut through steel lockers. Mia refined her danger sense. Emily improved healing. Others developed fire telekinesis, strength, archery, tracking, metal detection. Ethan encouraged them, protected them, led them. Every improvement made the group stronger. Every improvement also made their talents more valuable. He still had not stolen most of them. Why steal a seed when he could wait for fruit? Let them train. Let them evolve. Let them become powerful. Then if loyalty survived, they remained useful allies. If betrayal appeared, he could harvest everything in one thought. The system was perfect. A week passed. The school transformed. Barricades became walls. Classrooms became sleeping quarters. The cafeteria became controlled storage. The roof became a lookout post. Windows were reinforced with metal. Ethan used metal detection to locate abandoned construction materials nearby. He used stolen strength to move them at night. He used spatial storage to transport impossible amounts without being seen. Soon the school became a fortress, not perfect, but strong. Then Ethan found something beneath the school, a sealed maintenance tunnel. It connected to an underground utility network. In his previous life, survivors discovered it months later. This time, Ethan opened it early. Inside were emergency generators, fuel reserves, water pipes, maintenance equipment, storage chambers, an underground route leading toward several city blocks. Ethan stood in the darkness and smiled. Above ground, survivors believed they had a fortified school. Ethan saw something else, a foundation. An empire. He began expanding secretly. Food went underground. Weapons went underground. Medicine went underground. Fuel, tools, monster cores. Everything valuable. He created hidden rooms, escape routes. Only a handful of people knew. Emily believed Ethan trusted her. Sophia believed Ethan trusted her. Mia believed Ethan trusted her. In reality, nobody knew everything. Every person held one piece. Only Ethan held the entire map. That was how control worked. Not through shouting, through information, through dependence, through options nobody else knew existed. More survivors began arriving. They had heard rumors. A school fortress, a young leader, a group that could kill monsters, a healer, food, safety. People came desperate. Ethan accepted the useful: carpenters, nurses, mechanics. Hunters, people with talents, everyone was tested. Everyone worked. Nobody ate for free. The weak were not abused. That created resentment. But they were not carried either. That created discipline. The fortress grew. Then one evening Mia came running. Ethan, her face was serious. People are coming. How many? A lot. Ethan climbed to the roof. In the distance, survivors moved down the street. Dozens. Maybe more. Organized. At their front flew a red cloth marked with a crude black crown. Ethan recognized it immediately. The Riverside Group. In his previous life, they had become one of the strongest survivor factions in the district. Their leader possessed a talent called skill amplification. He could temporarily multiply the strength of another person's ability. A dangerous support talent, extremely valuable. The group had also collected awakened fighters. Fire, ice, speed. Stone skin, enhanced strength. A treasure chest walking directly toward Ethan's fortress. Sophia joined him. Do you know them? Ethan watched the approaching army. No, that was technically true. Not in this life. Emily looked worried. What do they want? Ethan smiled. Probably what everyone wants. What? Everything below the fortress gates closed. Combat teams moved into position. Archers climbed barricades. Fire users prepared. Wind gathered around Sophia's hands. Mia's eyes sharpened. Emily prepared medical stations. 30 frightened classmates had become fighters, survivors, followers. The school had become a stronghold. Resources filled underground vaults. Weapons lined hidden chambers. And Ethan? He had accumulated more power in a single week than he had possessed after months in his first life. Armor, command, sonic force, predatory perception, strength, speed resistance, bone weapons, combat masteries, fused into superior ones. And he had still barely begun. Across the street, the enemy group stopped. Their leader stepped forward. He looked toward the walls, then shouted, "This territory belongs to Riverside now." Silence answered him. He continued, "Surrender your food, weapons, awakened women, and supplies." Sophia's face twisted with disgust. Emily looked horrified. Ethan remained calm. The man below smiled arrogantly. "If you cooperate, we might let you stay alive." Behind Ethan, someone whispered, "What do we do?" Everyone looked toward him. Ethan studied the enemy. Dozens of abilities, dozens of potential acquisitions. One skill amplification talent, several strong fighters, and a group arrogant enough to deliver themselves to his front gate. He could almost respect the efficiency. Ethan rested one hand on the railing. His smile became cold. "We opened the gate." Emily stared. "What?" Sophia turned sharply. "You can't be serious." Ethan looked at the enemy army. "Yes." Below, the Riverside leader began laughing when he saw the gates move. He thought the fortress was surrendering. He thought fear had already won. He thought the people inside had chosen obedience. Ethan descended the stairs. The girls followed. One weapons ready, eyes hard. No longer helpless students, no longer prey. At the gate, Ethan stopped. The metal doors opened. The Riverside leader stepped forward with a victorious smile. Ethan returned it. Because while the enemy saw a fortress full of resources, Ethan saw an army full of skills, and he had been getting hungry. The gates opened completely. The Riverside survivors stared into the school courtyard. No arrows, no gunfire, no desperate resistance. Just Ethan standing in the center of the entrance with his hands empty. Behind him stood Sophia, Mia, Emily, and the others. The Riverside leader grinned. His name was Grant Mercer. In Ethan's previous life, Grant had built his faction by pretending to negotiate first, then stealing everything after he learned what his victims possessed. He had called it efficiency. Later, when his own men betrayed him, Grant had screamed about loyalty until they cut his throat. Ethan remembered that too. Grant walked through the gate as if he already owned the place. "You made the right decision." Ethan smiled. Grant looked around. His eyes became greedy. Fortified walls, food stores, armed survivors, clean water stations, barricades, a functioning generator. To Grant, the school looked like paradise. Then he noticed the girls. His smile changed. Disgust flickered across Sophia's face. Grant pointed casually toward Ethan. "You're the leader." Grant laughed. His men laughed with him. One of them carried a huge axe. Another had stone-like skin. A woman beside Grant had frost covering her hands. A thin man in a torn business suit produced sparks between his fingers. Useful. Very useful. Ethan's interface came alive. Multiple valid targets detected. Skill amplification, stone skin manipulation, electrical discharge, enhanced muscle density, rapid reflex, weapon mastery, minor barrier, multiple abilities available. Ethan almost felt grateful. Grant had brought an entire market to his doorstep. Grant stopped a few steps away. "Here are the new rules." Nobody answered. All weapons belong to Riverside. Still silence. All Food's fingers tightened. All awakened combat talents report to my people. Grant looked toward Emily. Healers especially. Emily's expression turned cold. Then Grant glanced over the rest of the girls. And we'll decide who gets assigned where. The meaning was obvious. Several girls looked sick. Grant smiled as if he were discussing inventory. Ethan tilted his head. Finished? Grant's smile weakened. What? Are those all the rules? One of Riverside's fighters laughed. Look at this kid. Grant stepped closer. You think you're in a position to be sarcastic? Ethan looked beyond him, at the Riverside fighters, at the survivors waiting outside, at the weapons, at the talents, then back to Grant. No, he paused. I think you misunderstand your position. The courtyard became quiet. Grant's expression hardened. His skill amplification activated. A crimson glow spread from his palm toward the axe wielder. The man's muscles expanded instantly. Veins bulged across his neck. His already massive axe became surrounded by a violent red aura. Grant smiled. This position? The axe wielder charged. Sophia raised her hands. Ethan lifted one finger. Don't she stop. The axe came down, hard enough to split a car. Ethan caught it with one hand. The impact cracked the ground beneath his feet. Dust erupted. Everyone froze. The axe wielder pulled. Nothing happened. Ethan looked at the weapon, then at the man holding it. Strong, the man roared and activated more force. His muscles swelled. Ethan's arm did not move. Grant's smile vanished. Ethan's interface reacted. Hostile amplified ability detected. Skill amplification available. He whispered inside his mind. Take. Grant staggered. The crimson glow vanished. The axe wielder's strength collapsed. Grant grabbed his chest. What did you? Ethan ignored him. Skill amplification acquired. He activated it on himself. The result was immediate. Enhanced strength multiplied. Bone density multiplied. Regeneration multiplied. Combat perception sharpened. The world slowed. Ethan twisted his wrist. The axe blade snapped. Not the handle. The blade metal shattered in his hand. The axe wielder stared. Ethan punched him once. The man flew backward. His body smashed through two wooden barricades and crashed into the courtyard wall. Silence. Riverside's stone-skinned fighter charged next. Kill him! His body hardened into gray armor. Ethan looked at him. Take. The gray armor vanished. The man stopped mid-step. His eyes widened. What happened? Ethan punched him in the stomach. The man folded. Collapsed stone skin acquired. The frost user panicked. Ice exploded from her hands. A wave of freezing air swept across the courtyard. Ethan walked through it. Ice formed on his clothes. Then cracked. His adaptive tissue responded. Cold resistance grew. Regeneration corrected minor damage. Ethan extended one hand. Take. The frost disappeared from the woman's fingers. Her face turned white. Ethan's palm became covered in pale mist. Frost manipulation acquired. The electrical user screamed. Lightning arched toward Ethan. This time Ethan allowed it to hit. Pain tore through his body. Muscles spasmed. Several girls screamed his name. Then his resistances adapted. The second bolt hurt less. The third barely slowed him. Ethan smiled. The electrical user stepped backward. No. Ethan lifted his hand. Mine. Electrical discharge acquired. Lightning vanished from the man. Blue-white arcs appeared around Ethan's fingers. Now the Riverside fighters understood. He was not copying them. He was not suppressing them. He was taking them permanently. Grant backed away. Ethan looked at him. A useful one. Grant spun around. Riverside obeyed. Fire. Ice from another awakened. Throwing knives, bullets, stone projectiles. Sound waves. A barrier wielder tried to trap Ethan. The courtyard exploded. Emily shouted, Ethan! Sophia raised Windblade. Mia pulled her weapon. Then the smoke cleared. Ethan was still standing. Iron skin covered his body. Stone skin layered over it. Reinforced dermal layer beneath both. Minor barrier shimmered around him. Regeneration erased the damage that got through. The entire attack had achieved almost nothing. Then Ethan moved. He did not rush wildly. He harvest step. One target, one theft take. Rapid reflex disappeared from a fighter. Ethan gained it. Take. Weapon mastery vanished. His hands instantly understood dozens of weapons. Take. Blood tracking disappeared. His senses sharpened. Take. Minor barrier disappeared. A translucent shield formed around Ethan instead. Every Riverside fighter became weaker. Every second made Ethan stronger. Panic spread faster than blood. Grant shouted. Nobody listened. Some ran, others fired randomly. One man dropped his rifle and tried climbing the wall. A woman begged, I surrender. Ethan did not chase everyone. That would be wasteful. He targeted abilities, combat talents, resistances, specialized knowledge. Everything valuable flowed toward him. The courtyard became a feeding ground. Riverside had arrived believing they were raiders. Now they were being stripped alive of the only advantages keeping them above ordinary survivors. Sophia stood behind Ethan, speechless. She had known he was strong. She had not understood how strong. Emily looked equally stunned. Mia's danger sense had become nearly unbearable. Not because of Riverside, because of Ethan. Every instinct screamed that the most dangerous thing in the courtyard was standing on their side. Grant stumbled toward the gate. Ethan appeared in front of him. Grant froze. How? Ethan had combined rapid reflex with enhanced agility and predatory perception. The movement was almost invisible now. Grant raised both hands. Listen. Ethan said nothing. Grant swallowed. We can work together. No, we have people. So do I resources. So do I territory. Ethan looked around. Had Grant's face twisted. You think this ends here? Same arrogance. Same desperate need to believe he still mattered. Grant pointed toward the city. Riverside isn't just us. We have other camps. Other teams. Good. Grant blinked. Ethan smiled. Bring more skills. Grant's face collapsed. For the first time, he understood the scale of his mistake. He had not discovered a vulnerable fortress. He had delivered a shipment. Ethan stepped aside. Go. Grant stared at him. You're letting me leave? Yes. Grant did not question it. He ran. Several survivors followed. Sophia looked to escape. Ethan watched them disappear. Fear travels faster than messengers, she understood. The survivors outside the school understood too. By sunset, the story had already begun spreading. A boy who stole powers, a school fortress that crushed Riverside, a leader bullets could not kill, a man who could turn your talent into his own. Rumors distorted quickly. That was useful. Fear created distance. Distance created preparation time. Preparation time created power. But Ethan knew something else. Riverside's defeat was not the real disaster. The real disaster was coming from the crimson crack above the city. That night, the sky changed. The crack widened. A sound rolled across the world. Not thunder, something deeper, something enormous. Every awakened person heard the announcement at the same time. Second evolution initiated. Environmental mutation, accelerated Higger life forms, unlocked Sace Parian terminated. The fortress went silent. Ethan looked upward. In his previous life, this message had marked the beginning of hell. Before it, monsters were dangerous. After it, they became intelligent, organized, hungry, and much stronger. Sirens began screaming across the city, then stopped all at once. Mia grabbed her head, her knees buckled. Sophia caught her. Mia? Mia's eyes were wide. There are too many what? She looked toward the walls, everything. The first roar came from downtown. Another answered from the east, then another, then hundreds. The city erupted. Cars overturned. Mutated creatures poured from underground stations. Infected climbed buildings. Winged monsters filled the sky. Massive shadows moved between towers. The apocalypse had finally stopped pretending to be survivable. Inside the fortress, people panicked. Some cried. Some demanded food. Others tried forcing open the gates to flee. Emily rushed between medical stations. Sophia organized fighters. Ethan walked through the chaos calmly. He had seen worse, much worse. Then the radio crackled. A voice screamed through static. To anyone listening, gunfire echoed behind the speaker. We're under attack. Another scream. Something breached the north wall. Static. People are turning on each other. A different voice shouted. Grant locked the food storage. Then a gunshot, more screaming. The transmission cut. Ethan looked toward the radio. Exactly as expected. Grant had returned home without his talent. His strongest fighters had returned without theirs. Riverside had lost its combat advantage at the worst possible moment. Then the higher mutations came. Their kingdom was collapsing. No sympathy, they had chosen the road. Ethan had simply removed the railing. The next transmission came from another survivor camp. Then another. Everywhere was falling. People begged for help. Shelters burned. Food stores were overrun. Mutated beasts tore through barricades. Some leaders abandoned their own people. Others hoarded supplies. Families fought over water. The social order rotted in hours. Then someone appeared at Ethan's gate, a group of survivors, dirty, bleeding, terrified, riverside colors. Sophia frowned. Ethan went to the wall. Below, Grant stood among them. His arrogance was gone. His clothes were torn. Blood covered one side of his face. Dozens of survivors crowded behind him. Ethan! No answer. Please. The courtyard went quiet. Several girls stared down. Grant lifted both hands. We need shelter, Sophia laughed bitterly. You wanted to take ours yesterday. Grant flinched. That was a mistake. Ethan remained silent. Grant continued. Our base is everything. Please open the gate. Behind him, people cried. A monster roared somewhere nearby. Grant looked over his shoulder, then back toward Ethan. His voice cracked. We'll work for you. We'll give you anything. Ethan finally spoke. You already did. Grant froze. He understood. His talent, his fighter skills, his weapons, his pride, everything valuable had already been taken. Grant began begging harder. I was wrong. You were right. You're stronger. You should lead. Ethan watched him. In another life, Grant had once laughed while weaker survivors starved outside his gates. Ethan remembered hearing about it. Grant had said weakness was a choice. Interesting philosophy. Ethan looked beyond him. Movement, a massive shape emerged from the street. The survivors screamed. A creature crawled over an overturned bus. Its body was covered in layered black armor, 6 limbs, a skull shaped like a wedge, a mouth filled with rotating teeth, one of the newly evolved predators. Grant turned. No, the beast charged. People scattered. Grant ran toward the school gate. Open it! Ethan did not move. The monster killed 3 people in seconds. Grant slammed his fists against the gate. Ethan. Emily looked at Ethan. Her expression was conflicted. Are we really going to watch? Ethan looked at her. You want to open the gate? She looked down. The creature was getting closer. Grant screamed again. Emily's lips parted. Then she saw the dozens of survivors behind Grant. If the gates opened, panic would flood inside. So might the monster. Her face changed, for the fashion lost against responsibility. No, Ethan nodded. The beast reached Grant. He fell backward. Its claw rose, then stopped. Ethan appeared outside the gate. Nobody had seen him move. Hope exploded across his face. You came. Ethan ignored him. The evolved predator attacked. Its claw struck Ethan's chest. The impact sent a shockwave across the street. Grant covered his face. When he looked again, Ethan was still standing, unmoved. The monster struck again. Ethan grabbed its wrist. The creature roared. He amplified his own strength. Bone cracked. The limb folded backward. The beast screamed. Ethan drove one fist into its armored chest. The armor caved inward. A second punch shattered it. A third passed through. The creature collapsed. Absurd. Impossible. The Riverside survivors stared. Grant trembled. Ethan's interface filled with rewards. Superior black carapace, rotating fang structure, predator instinct, explosive muscle fiber, advanced crimson energy absorption. Take all. Yes. Power surged. His skin hardened further. His muscles evolved. Crimson energy flooded him. Another notification appeared. Multiple compatible defensive traits detected. Fusion recommended. Reinforced dermal layer, superior black carapace. Fuse. Pain flashed. Then vanished. Tyrant body acquired. Ethan looked at his hand. It appeared normal, but he could feel what lay beneath. Layered defense. Dense tissue. Adaptive armor regeneration. A body that ordinary weapons could barely threaten. Grant crawled toward him. You saved me. Ethan looked down. Grant laughed weakly, relieved. I knew you were better than me. Ethan said nothing. Grant grabbed his trouser leg. I'll serve you, I swear, anything. Ethan stared at the hand touching him, then removed it. Go. You wanted a territory. Ethan pointed toward the burning city. There's plenty. Grant began shaking. You can't leave us out here. Ethan turned. We'll die. Ethan stopped. Looked over his shoulder. His expression was calm. When you came here yesterday, you were willing to decide who deserved food, shelter, weapons, and safety. Grant's mouth opened. Ethan continued. So decide for yourself. He walked through the gate. The doors closed. Outside, Grant began pounding against the metal. Inside, nobody spoke. Some looked horrified. Others looked relieved. None challenged Ethan. Then the real attack began. Mia screamed from the watchtower. North side. Winged creatures descended. East wall. Infected flooded the street. Roof. Something crashed into the building. The fortress shook. Ethan looked around. Every fighter turned toward him. Waiting, he spoke one sentence. Hold your positions. Then he stepped onto the courtyard. The sky above was filled with monsters. The street outside was filled with monsters. The city beyond was burning. Sophia stood beside him. Wind gathered around her arms. Emily prepared healing. Mia called targets. The girls from that first classroom took positions across the walls. Fire, wind, telekinesis, archery, strength barriers. All trained, all sharpened, all following him. Ethan looked toward the swarm. In his previous life, this phase had destroyed nearly everything he loved. This time, he had a fortress, an army, hidden supplies, escape tunnels, dozens of evolved talents, infinite plunder, and an entire horde carrying new abilities straight toward him. His cold smile returned. Let them come. The first wave hit. Fire filled the night. Wind blades tore through wings. Bullets cracked. Stones shattered. Monsters climbed the walls. Ethan moved through them like death. One strike. One kill. Claw resistance. Take acid resistance. Take flight muscle structure. Take night predator vision. Take regeneration. Take crimson absorption. Take. Every monster made him stronger. Every minute widened the gap. The girls fought until their arms shook. Ethan did not tire. By midnight, bodies surrounded the school. By dawn, the walls were still standing. Across the ruined district, almost every other visible shelter had gone dark. The school remained lit. A single fortress surrounded by death. Survivors watching from distant rooftops stared in disbelief. They had believed Ethan's people were lucky. Now they understood. Luck had nothing to do with it. On the eastern barricade, Sophia looked down at the mountains of corpses, then toward Ethan. He stood among them alone, untouched, blood around his boots, monster abilities flowing into him one after another. A crimson dawn rose behind him. For the first time, even his own people did not see a student. They saw something else. Something the apocalypse had created. Something that was beginning to stand above the rules everyone else was forced to obey. And far outside the fortress walls, the people who had mocked him, ordered him around, tried to rob him, and believed him weak were learning the same lesson. Too late. The useless thief had become the one person in the city who could take everything, and he was nowhere near finished. By the end of the second evolution phase, the city no longer looked like a city. It looked like a grave that had forgotten to close. Smoke covered the skyline. Buildings leaned against one another like dying giants. The roads were buried beneath abandoned cars, broken concrete, dried blood, and monster corpses. The school fortress stood in the middle of it all. Still lit, still guarded, still alive. That alone was enough to create legends. Survivors began calling it the Last Academy. Others called it the Iron School. Some simply called it Ethan's Fortress. Ethan disliked all three names. Names created symbols. Symbols created expectations. Expectations created weakness. So he never encouraged the stories. He simply used them. Every morning, desperate survivors appeared outside the walls. Some were starving. Some were wounded. Some carried useful talents. Some carried nothing except mouths. Ethan accepted people according to value, not cruelty, not kindness. Value. A mechanic could repair generators. A nurse could stabilize injuries. A farmer could understand crop cycles. A chemist could produce disinfectants. A coward with no useful skill could still dig trenches. Everyone had a purpose. Those who refused to contribute left. Those who tried stealing lost their privileges. Those who attacked others were expelled. The rules were simple, and because Ethan enforced them without exceptions, people obeyed. Not because they loved him. Love was unreliable. They obeyed because the fortress worked. Food appeared, water flowed, lights stayed on. The walls held, monsters died, people survived. That was enough. Emily became the heart of the medical wing. Her advanced healing had grown significantly. She could now close deep wounds, repair damaged muscle, slow internal bleeding. The survivors adored her. Emily enjoyed helping them. She still believed compassion was the foundation of civilization. Ethan never argued. Her compassion made people trust the fortress. Trust increased stability. Stability increased productivity. Therefore, compassion had value. That was enough reason to protect it. Sophia became the strongest visible combatant under Ethan. Her windblade had transformed. She could now fire compressed crescents capable of cutting through concrete. She trained obsessively, partly because she wanted to protect the others, partly because she had seen Ethan's strength and understood how far behind she was. Mia changed too. Her danger sense evolved into threat mapping. She no longer merely felt danger. She could identify direction, distance, severity, sometimes even intent. Ethan valued her greatly, and because he valued her, he never stole the skill. Not yet. The remaining girls developed as well. Fire manipulation became flame control. Minor telekinesis became force pull. Enhanced strength became giant force. Archery proficiency became precision shooting. Night vision became shadow sight. Metal detection evolved into resource sense. Every day, Ethan watched them grow. Every day, Infinite Plunder displayed their abilities. Available, tempting. Waiting, he took nothing. That frightened him more than stealing ever had. Because it proved he had changed. Not softened, never that. He had learned patience. In his previous life, he possessed nothing. So he desperately protected everything. This time, he could take everything. Therefore, he could afford to wait. Fruit became sweeter when allowed to ripen. The girls were becoming extraordinary. Good, let them. One evening, Mia found Ethan alone beneath the school. He was standing inside the underground utility network. What had once been a maintenance tunnel had become something else entirely. Food storage, weapons racks, medical reserve rooms, water purification tanks, monster cores stored inside reinforced containers. The hidden foundation of the fortress, Mia stared. I knew you were hiding supplies. Ethan looked at her. She immediately became nervous. I'm not accusing you. No? No. She looked around. There's enough food here to feed everyone for months. Longer. Her eyes widened. You had all this? Most of it, and upstairs people think we're barely stable. Yes. Mia frowned. Why? Ethan walked toward a storage shelf. Because people who believe supplies are infinite become wasteful. He picked up a sealed ration. People who believe tomorrow is guaranteed stop preparing. He placed it back. Scarcity creates discipline. Mia was silent. Then she asked quietly, do you trust us? Ethan looked at her. A dangerous question. In his previous life, he would have answered immediately. Of course. You're my friends. You're my classmates. We survived together. Those words had nearly killed him. This time, Ethan answered differently. I trust patterns. Mia blinked. What does that mean? It means you've followed orders when afraid. You've warned others when danger appeared. You've shared food. You've never stolen. You've never abandoned a teammate. Mia looked uncertain. That sounds like trust. No. Ethan's expression remained calm. That sounds like evidence. She stared at him for several seconds, then laughed softly. You're probably. She turned toward the tunnel. Can I ask one more thing? Yes. Why did you save us? Ethan said nothing. Mia looked back. That first day. The classroom. You could have escaped alone. She hesitated. You're strong enough. Ethan remembered the truth. He had saved them because they were useful. Because their skills could become resources. Because they could become shields. Followers. Investments. He opened his mouth, then stopped. That answer was still true. But no longer complete. Sophia had saved him from an attack, even when she believed she might die. Mia had warned him countless times. Emily had spent nights healing strangers until she collapsed. Others had followed his rules. Worked, fought, bled. They were useful, but usefulness had become something more complicated. Ethan disliked complications. They were in my way. Mia smiled. That's a terrible lie. Then she walked away. Ethan watched her leave. He felt no anger, only irritation, because she was right. The first major sign of disaster arrived 3 days later. A survivor patrol returned without 2 members. One had been killed. The other had disappeared. The surviving patrol leader carried something strange. A black piece of flesh. It moved even after being severed. This isn't like the others. Ethan already knew. The third mutation cycle was approaching. In his previous life, this was when the true rulers of the apocalypse began emerging. Not beasts. Kings. Creatures capable of commanding lesser monsters. Intelligent predators. Territorial entities. Some developed language. Some developed strategy. Some developed abilities powerful enough to destroy survivor settlements in minutes. And the first one to appear in this district had nearly annihilated everyone Ethan knew. The Blood Matriarch. A humanoid monster that controlled infected through pheromones and blood resonance. She built nests beneath populated areas, captured living humans, used them as biological incubators, then produced specialized monsters, scouts, armored guards, burrowers. Her army had consumed 3 survivor factions before anyone understood what was happening. In Ethan's previous life, the school had fallen to her swarm. Not immediately. Slowly, first patrols vanished, then food routes disappeared. Then people were dragged from the walls at night. Then the swarm came. Ethan remembered hiding beneath a collapsed staircase while people screamed. He remembered Emily healing until blood ran from her nose. He remembered Sophia losing part of her arm. He remembered Mia dying. That memory surfaced unexpectedly. Mia on the floor, eyes open, body cold. Ethan staring at her while something inside him broke. He had forgotten that moment. Or tried to. Now he looked at the moving piece of flesh on the table. No. Not again. Emily noticed his expression. You know what this is, not a question. Ethan looked around. Sophia, Mia, the combat leaders, several senior survivors, all waiting. He could lie. But the time for hiding certain things had ended. Sophia frowned. For an army. Silence face changed. Her threat mapping reacted. How bad? Ethan looked directly at her. Bad enough to destroy this fortress. Nobody laughed. Nobody doubted him. That alone showed how much had changed. Sophia folded her arms. Then we kill it first. Ethan almost smiled. Simple. Good. Exactly. Preparations began immediately. But Ethan did not prepare for defense. Defense meant allowing the enemy to choose the battlefield. He prepared for extermination. Mia mapped disappearances, patrol routes changed. Scouts moved in pairs, then teams. Ethan used predatory perception to inspect underground entrances. He found blood traces, pheromone residue, disturbed soil. The matriarch was building beneath the western residential district. Perfect. Not close enough to threaten the school immediately. Close enough to attack. Ethan assembled a strike group, Sophia. Mia, 2 fire users, 1 barrier wielder. 3 enhanced strength fighters. A shooter, Emily protested. You need a healer. If someone gets injured, they retreat. Emily frowned. You always do that. Do what? Decide what everyone else risks. Ethan stared at her. The room became tense. Emily did not look away. You go into every dangerous fight. You get injured. You come back covered in blood. Then you tell everyone else they're not allowed to do the same. Ethan answered calmly. My survival odds are higher. That's not the point. It is exactly the point. Emily clenched her fists. You're not the only one who gets to decide what matters. That sentence struck somewhere unpleasant. In his previous life, Emily had used similar words. Then those decisions had helped destroy them. His expression cooled. You stay. Emily's face changed. Ethan, that's final. She stepped toward him. Stop treating us like tools. Silence. Sophia looked between them. Mia stopped breathing for a moment. Emily realized what she had said. Ethan felt something cold open inside his tools. The word was accurate. Too accurate. He could have become angry. Instead, he smiled. The same smile he wore before killing monsters. Her confidence weakened. Fine. Her voice became quieter. Go. The strike team left before dawn. Nobody spoke about the argument. The Western District was dead. Too dead. No infected wandering. No animals, no birds. That meant territory. Sophia whispered, I hate this. Mia pointed toward a subway entrance. There Ethan could already smell blood. Old blood, fresh blood, human blood. They descended. The tunnels had changed. Flesh covered the walls. Red membranes pulsed around pipes. Egg-like sacs hung from the ceiling. Inside them, silhouettes moved. One of the younger fighters gagged. What the hell? Ethan cut the nearest sac. A half-formed creature fell out. Still alive, it screamed. Sophia looked pale. How many are there? Mia closed her eyes, her face turned white. Hundreds, Ethan corrected her. Thousands. Then the lights went out. A scream came from behind. Something moved. Fast the shooter fired. Muzzle flashes illuminated claws. Bodies, teeth, then darkness again. Ethan shouted. The barrier user activated. A translucent dome formed. Monsters slammed into it. Sophia fired wind blades. The fire users filled the tunnel with flame. Creatures screamed. Ethan moved beyond the barrier. Ethan! He ignored them. The swarm surrounded him. Good. Infinite plunder activated repeatedly. Heat resistance take. Claw reinforcement. Take. Acid blood take. Tunnel vision adaptation. Take pheromone detection. Take hive communication. Ethan stopped. Hive communication interesting. Take. The world exploded with noise. Not physical sound. Commands. Coordinates. Fear, hunger. Direction. A living network. Hundreds of minds connected through crude biological signals. Ethan suddenly understood the swarm. He could hear them. Feel them. And more importantly, they could hear him. He sent one command. Several creatures froze. Not all. Only the weaker ones, but enough. Sophia stared. What did you do? Ethan did not answer. He pushed deeper. The matriarchs sensed him immediately. The hive changed. Every creature turned. A single command passed through the network. Kill. The tunnel shook. Thousands began moving. Mia screamed. They're all coming. Ethan smiled. Good. The next hour became slaughter. The fire users burned nests. Sophia carved corridors through monsters. Barrier shields cracked. Enhanced fighters held choke points. Ethan walked ahead of everyone. Every new creature carried something. Armored plates, poison sacs. Take. Heat vision. Take. Sound navigation. Take. Burrowing claws. Take. Fast healing. Take. Hive obedience. Take. The swarm weakened as Ethan strengthened. Then the first elite appeared. A massive guard blocked the tunnel. 4 arms. Bone shield. Regenerative muscle. It roared. Ethan punched through its shield. Then its chest. Elite guard defeated. Superior bone armor. High-speed regeneration. Muscle overclock. Hive authority. Take all. His body surged. Hive communication evolved. Hive dominance acquired. Ethan stopped. 1,000 biological signals became clear. He no longer merely heard the swarm. He could impose commands. Not on strong creatures. Not yet, but weak infected scouts? Larvae, yes. Ethan looked into the darkness. Then issued a command. Attack each other. Screaming filled the tunnels. The strike team watched in horror as dozens of creatures suddenly turned on their own kind. Sophia lowered her hands. You're terrifying. Ethan looked back. That's useful. They reached the nest core. The chamber was enormous. Bodies covered the floor. Living humans hung from walls inside red membranes. Some were conscious. Most were not. At the center sat the blood matriarch. She looked almost human, almost. Long black hair, red veins, 4 eyes, a stomach swollen with moving shapes. She smiled when Ethan entered. Then she spoke. Thief. Everyone froze, Sophia whispered. It can talk, the matriarch stood. Wrong life. Ethan's expression changed, only slightly. Wrong life. The monster smiled wider. You smell wrong. Crimson energy filled the chamber. You died. Ethan's heart became still. Nobody behind him understood. The matriarch tilted her head. You memories flashed. Teeth. Blood. Emily closing the curtain. His body being eaten. Ethan's eyes became cold. The matriarch laughed. Something returned you. Interesting. So higher monsters could sense remnants of rebirth. That meant the apocalypse held mysteries even Ethan did not know. Good. He preferred enemies with secrets. The matriarch extended one hand. Blood rose from the floor. It became spears. Hundreds. The spears fired. Ethan stepped forward. Tyrant body, stone skin, iron reinforcement, barrier, skill amplification. The blood spears shattered against him. The matriarch stopped smiling. Ethan looked at her. My turn. He activated command voice through hive dominance. Kneel. Every lesser creature in the chamber collapsed. The matriarch staggered. Only one step. But that was enough. Sophia attacked. Windblade tore across the matriarch's shoulder. The fire users burned the egg clusters. The chamber erupted. The matriarch screamed. Blood flooded upward. A crimson armor formed around her. She became faster, stronger. Ethan's interface flashed. Royal pheromone, mass regeneration, hive creation, crimson evolution, blood memory, blood memory. Ethan's pupils narrowed. Could that be why she recognized him? He wanted it. All of it. The matriarch charged. Her claws pierced Ethan's barrier. Then iron skin. Finally, they reached flesh. For the first time in days, Ethan bled heavily. The matriarch smiled, then the wound closed. Her smile vanished. Ethan grabbed her wrist. Blood manipulation acquired. Her crimson armor weakened. Take. Royal pheromone acquired. The swarm screamed. Take. Mass regeneration acquired. Her wound stopped healing. Take. Hive creation acquired. The egg sacs began dying. The matriarch panicked. She tried pulling away. Ethan held tighter. Take. Crimson evolution acquired. Power exploded through him. His body burned. The chamber shook. Then one final ability remained. Blood. The matriarch looked terrified. No. Ethan smiled. That word sounded beautiful coming from enemies. Take. The world disappeared. Memory struck him. Not his. Thousands. People consumed by the matriarch. Their final moments. Their fear. Their knowledge. Fragments. Then something deeper. A memory older than the matriarch herself. A vast, dark structure beyond reality. Countless worlds. Countless apocalypses. Something selecting them. Testing them. Consuming the survivors. Ethan saw a symbol. A black crown inside a red circle. Then the vision ended. The matriarch collapsed, dead. Sophia approached carefully. You okay? Yes, that was a lie. For the first time since rebirth, Ethan had seen evidence that the apocalypse was not random. Something had created it, or managed it. Maybe the talents, too. Maybe his return. Maybe infinite plunder. Questions. Dangerous questions. He would answer them later. First, survival. They rescued those still alive, destroyed the remaining nests. Then Ethan did something unexpected. He used hive creation. A small crimson mass formed in his palm. Compatible abilities detected. Hive creation, internal storage, crimson energy absorption, skill refinement, fusion available. Ethan stared. Fuse. Pain stabbed through his chest. Then space-twisted forges acquired. His internal space expanded violently. Not a room. Not a warehouse. Something larger. A sealed pocket environment. He could store living organisms temporarily. Grow biological material. Preserve supplies. Potentially cultivate mutated plants. Ethan smiled. The possibilities were absurd. He had wanted an empire. Now he could build parts of it inside himself. When the strike team returned, the fortress erupted in celebration. The blood matriarch's nest was gone. Missing survivors had been rescued. The Western District became safe enough for scavenging. Food routes reopened. Ethan became something beyond leader. A symbol whether he wanted it or not. Then Emily approached. He expected another argument. Instead, she looked exhausted. You were right. Ethan said nothing. If I had gone, the medical wing would have been left understaffed. She looked down. I was angry. I know. I still think you treat people like resources sometimes. He almost smiled. Sometimes Emily looked at him sharply, then laughed despite herself. It disappeared quickly. I'm sorry, Ethan studied her. In his previous life, apologies had often been weapons, used to reset trust without changing behavior. But Emily's posture was different. No manipulation, no audience. No advantage once accepted. She looked surprised. That's it? What else did you want? I don't know. A speech? Maybe. Ethan walked past her. I don't give speeches. She smiled. You give terrifying ones. That's different. For several weeks, the fortress expanded. The underground tunnels became roads. The Western District became farmland after survivors cleared contaminated soil. Mutated plants were tested. Some produced nutrient-rich fruit, others produced poison. Ethan stole growth acceleration from a mutated vine, then photosynthetic efficiency, then soil purification. He fused them into agricultural dominion. Crops grew faster, stronger. Food stopped being a constant threat. Water purification improved. Solar panels were recovered. Generators became backup power. Engineers repaired workshops. Weapons were produced. The girls became commanders. Sophia led coordinated intelligence. Emily controlled medical operations. Others oversaw logistics, engineering, food, training, and communications. The classroom of frightened students had become the core of a functioning settlement. Thousands eventually lived under the fortress network. Walls expanded beyond the school. Buildings connected through reinforced corridors. Watchtowers rose, trenches surrounded streets. Monster cores powered experimental devices. Children laughed again. Markets reopened. People traded. Someone started baking bread. That smell stopped Ethan one morning. Fresh bread. Simple, ordinary, impossible. He stood near the market and watched people arguing over vegetables. Not over whether they would eat. Over prices. An old man complained loudly. A child stole a pastry. The baker chased him. People laughed. Civilization small. Fragile, real, Sophia appeared beside Ethan. You're smiling. You are, I'm not, she laughed. Terrifying leader defeated by bread. Ethan walked away. She followed. The fortress had become prosperous. Too prosperous. And prosperity attracted predators. Human predators, monster predators, something worse. A transmission arrived from the Northern District. A faction called Heaven's Gate. Their leader claimed to possess a divine class talent. Judgment. He had built a cult around it. Thousands followed him. He called Ethan a false king. Declared infinite plunder an evil talent. Demanded the fortress submit to purification. Sophia read the message, then looked at Ethan. What do we say? Ethan took the paper. Read it once. Burned it. Nothing. They threaten war. I know. Ethan looked north. No. Because in his previous life he had heard of Heaven's Gate. He knew the secret. Judgment was powerful. But the leader was not divine. He was terrified. Terrified because his talent had a hidden cost. Every use consumed lifespan. He had built a religion because he needed followers to fight for him. He was already dying. Ethan had once pitied him. Not anymore. 3 days later, Heaven's Gate marched south. Thousands, white banners, armored vehicles. Awakened soldiers. Their leader stood on top of a transport truck wearing white robes. Adrian's soul. He looked like a prophet. Gold lights surrounded him. Crowds chanted his name. He stopped outside Ethan's expanded walls. Ethan Vale, his amplified voice rolled across the district. You have corrupted the gifts granted to humanity. Ethan stood above the gate. Sophia behind. Emily farther back. You steal sacred talents. You hoard power. You place yourself above mankind. Ethan looked around. Farms. Lights, hospitals, defenses. Thousands of living people. Then at Adrian's army. Interesting definition of corruption. Adrian raised one hand. Golden light formed. Judgment. Ethan's interface reacted instantly. Extreme energy talent detected. Judgment secondary trait. Faith conversion. Hidden cost detected. Lifespan consumption. Ethan smiled. Adrian pointed at him. Kneel and surrender your talent. Everyone on the wall went silent. Ethan answered. Adrian's face hardened. Then I condemn you. Light descended. A pillar from the sky. Massive. Blinding. The fortress shook. People screamed. When the light cleared, Ethan still stood on the wall. Uninjured. His barrier was cracked. His outer skin smoked. Regeneration repaired everything. Adrian's face turned pale. He had spent years of lifespan on that attack. For nothing, Ethan looked down. My turn. He disappeared. Adrian barely saw him arrive. Ethan appeared on the truck. Grabbed his wrist. Adrian screamed. Judgment. Nothing happened. Ethan smiled. Take Gold Light vanished. Adrian collapsed. His followers stopped chanting. Ethan's interface flashed. Judgment acquired. Faith conversion acquired. Lifespan consumption removed through infinite plunder optimization. Ethan stared. Even the cost had been stolen away from the skill. No, removed. Refined. The talent became better inside him than it had ever been inside Adrian. That was the true horror of infinite plunder. It did not merely collect, it perfected. Adrian crawled backward. That belongs to God. Ethan looked at the golden light forming in his palm. No. He closed his fingers. It belonged to you. He looked down. Now it belongs to me. The Heaven's Gate army watched their prophet lose his miracle in seconds. Faith collapsed. Some ran. Some surrendered. Some cried. Adrian screamed at them. Don't listen. They're being tested. He's a demon. Nobody moved. Ethan looked at the army, then activated command voice. Drop your weapons. Thousands of weapons hit the ground. Adrian stared. Ethan looked back at him. No hatred, only calculation. You built your kingdom on borrowed fear. Adrian shook. Ethan continued. Now the loan is due. He left Adrian alive. Again, death was easy. Living without the identity you worshipped was harder. Heaven's Gate dissolved within days. Its engineers joined the fortress. Its farmers joined. Its doctors joined. Its useful awakened survivors were evaluated. Those who wanted peace stayed. Those who wanted power left. Adrian disappeared. Nobody cared where. The fortress network doubled, then doubled again. Month by month, Ethan's territory expanded. The apocalypse stopped feeling like the end, at least inside his walls. Outside, entire regions had become monster kingdoms. One city was covered in ice. Another had disappeared beneath a living forest. A coastal district was controlled by something beneath the sea. Flying predators made highways impossible. Human factions rose and fell. Ethan's empire remained. Not because he was the kindest, not because he was the most heroic, because every threat became material. Every enemy became strength. Every disaster became opportunity. Infinite plunder had transformed the apocalypse into a staircase. And Ethan never stopped climbing. One night, he stood on the highest watchtower. Below him, lights spread across the district. Sophia, you ever sleep? Yes. When? When nothing is trying to kill us. She leaned against the railing, so never. Correct. Mia arrived soon after. Then Emily. The four stood quietly. For a moment, they looked almost like students again. Almost, Emily broke the silence. Remember the classroom? Sophia laughed. I remember Chloe screaming because everything attacked her. Mia smiled. That was weird. Ethan said nothing. Chloe. He had nearly forgotten. She still lived in the fortress, not as a commander, not as an elite survivor, just another worker. After losing enhanced agility, she never awakened another talent. She had spent weeks resenting Ethan, then months watching him grow. Eventually, resentment became silence. She worked in food distribution now. Never caused trouble, never apologized either. Interesting. Emily looked at Ethan. You were terrifying even then. I had a knife. You stabbed a monster in the eye. It worked. Sophia laughed. You're impossible. Then the sky changed. Every smile vanished. A black circle appeared inside the crimson crack. The same symbol Ethan had seen through blood memory. A crown black. Perfect. Impossible. A system announcement spread across the world. Regional servable pay. Complete. Igenfeet next stage preparation initiated. Dominion War will begin, Emily whispered. Dominion War? Sophia looked toward Ethan. What does that mean? Ethan stared at the black crown. He remembered the vision, countless worlds, countless apocalypses. Something watching, testing, harvesting. His smile disappeared. This was larger than revenge, larger than survival, larger than one city. The apocalypse was not ending, it was selecting winners. And Ethan had no intention of becoming someone else's livestock. A new notification appeared, only for him. Anomalous talent detect, Plunder has extolled local system parpambers. Observation. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You have been noticed. Sophia saw his expression. What happened? Ethan looked at the sky, then down at the empire they had built. The girls he had once considered tools, the survivors. The walls, the farms, the lights. The civilization that should not exist. In his previous life, he had died begging. In this life, he had stolen enough power to make monsters kneel. But somewhere beyond the crimson sky, something had finally looked back. Good. Let it look. Ethan rested his hand on the railing. His eyes became cold. Whatever had started this apocalypse had made one mistake. It had filled the world with abilities. It had created monsters, kings, talents, evolution power. And then it had placed Ethan Vale inside that world with a talent capable of stealing all of it. If the thing behind the sky had a skill, he would take that too.